Welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Genesis chapter 31. There are 55 verses in this chapter, beginning in verse 7. The first difference we see here is Jacob describing how Laban changed his wages for the 10 lambs. In the Masoretic text it says, "He changed my wages 10 times. Right there, 10 times instead of 10 lambs. It's an interesting idea that he offers. 10 lambs. So it sounds like there was some kind of transaction and his wages were changed for these 10 lambs. Not sure how to make sense of that, but it's an interesting difference nonetheless. Verse 8, we see here the white. It says, all the cattle would bear white, as opposed to they would be ring-straked. That's a different pattern altogether. Verse 9 says, God has taken away all the cattle of your father, Jacob speaking, versus God has taken away the cattle, not just, some or part. It's open to interpretation, this verse, as taken away some, whereas in the Septuagint, it's all the cattle. Verse 11, we see here, what is it? Jacob is responding to an angel in his dream, and Jacob said, what is it? As opposed to in the Masoretic, here I am, or here am I, or here I. Completely different response. What is it? Yeah, what is it? Instead of here am I. Verse 13 says, I am Elohim that appeared to you in the place of Elohim, versus I am Elohim of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar. So essentially Bethel is house of God, so I am the God of the house of God. But he says here, I am the Elohim that appeared to you. He saw Elohim appear to him. It says it right there explicitly. He's not simply the Elohim of the house of God, but he is the one that appeared to him. Big detail missed out in the Masoretic. We see here, the land of your nativity. Leave to the land of your nativity, and I will be with you. Versus, return to the land of your kindred. That's it. I won't be with you. So that's an interesting difference. Completely omitted from the Masoretic, that I will be with you. We see here in verse 24, this is a huge difference, and this is the title of this video, essentially. Do not speak evil. It says here in the Masoretic text, and Elohim came to Laban the Syrian in sleep by night, and said to him, take heed to yourself that you speak not. So don't speak at any time to Jacob. What? Evil things. Let's just highlight that. Evil things. Do not speak to Jacob evil things. What does verse 24 say in the Masoretic? Well, let's take a look. Same thing, came to him in a dream by night. Said to him, Elohim did, take heed that you speak not to Jacob. So again, don't speak to Jacob what? Either good or bad. Nothing. Don't talk to him, basically. Don't speak to him. If you can't say anything good or bad, shouldn't say anything. Period. Nothing. That's all. Okay, so what do we see here in verse 29? This is Laban speaking, recounting what had happened. to Jacob, Elohim, your father, uh, Elohim of your father, pardon, spoke to me yesterday, saying, take heed to yourself that you speak not evil words to Jacob. So a little more detail. Evil words, or maybe he added that, but evil words. Don't speak evil words to Jacob. Obviously, it's words, so you can't speak anything else. Whereas the Masoretic, it just reinforces what was said erroneously. You take heed that you speak not to Jacob either good or bad. So are you talking to him? Why are you talking if you shouldn't say anything good or bad? Does that make sense? No, I think it's very illogical. It doesn't make sense. If I was an atheist, I would not believe this word because it contradicts itself. Let's not mince words. Let's just get cut to the chase. This word contradicts itself. However, if we take the Septuagint as the word of God, which I firmly believe it is 100%, don't speak evil words to Jacob. And what is he doing? He's speaking words, but they're not evil words. It doesn't contradict itself. This is the word of God. So moving on to verse 31, and I have to emphasize this because that's just the facts. If we're in a court of law, let's say we're in the court of law right now, and you told me, if you speak good or bad, you've broken the rule. Deal is off. And you're talking, deal is off. Do you not understand English? Don't speak good or bad. Don't speak, period. Essentially, that's what it's saying. So it's a write-off completely in the Masoretic. When it comes to this chapter, that's the title of this video, essentially. It's one of the biggest differences I've noted in all of Genesis. It just stands out like a sore thumb. Verse 31 says, Jacob speaking to Laban, I was afraid lest you should take away your daughters from me and all my possessions. You're going to take everything from me, not just your daughters back, but everything I own. The Masoretic doesn't include that. Of course he'd be afraid that he would take his possessions. That was very much a possibility. Verse 35, we see here, Rachel speaking to Laban, her father, be not indignant, sir. I cannot rise up before you. Why? For it is with me according to the manner of women. That is the menstrual cycle. Look at the Masoretic. Let it not displease you. So displeasure versus indignant. For something to not please me, I wouldn't be happy with it, but I would be angry. Indignant is angry. Do not be angry. I cannot rise up before you, for the custom of women is upon me. Means the same thing, just worded differently. Okay. Moving on. Verse 36, it says that Jacob was angry and strove with Laban. The word strove means to exert oneself vigorously. That's what it means. But what does the Masoretic say? It says Jacob chode with Laban. Does that mean the same thing? No, it means reprimand. Doesn't mean the same thing at all. Maybe it's similar in kind of attitude, but they don't mean the same thing. That's why I'm bringing it out. Next verse where we see a difference is verse 40. Jacob is saying, I was parched with heat by day and chilled with frost by night. Actually, chilled isn't really there, and with frost by night. He was suffering, basically. He's telling him how much he sacrificed the comforts of life for Laban and towards his work. That's his work ethic. He just was that kind of worker. The Masoretic doesn't say parched with heat by day. It says, I was during the day, the drought consumed me. So yeah, it's related to hot weather, but it's not saying the same thing. Maybe it's expressing it in a different way, but it's worded much differently. Verse 41, you did falsely rate my wages for 10 lambs. So rate or change? Well, it said change earlier. Now it's saying rate. But it is consistent regarding the 10 lambs aspect. Masoretic says the same thing that it did before. You have changed my wages 10 times. Okay. Verse 42 says, God saw my humiliation. Elohim saw my humiliation. This is Jacob speaking to Laban. Versus affliction. God saw my affliction. However, this seems to be a reoccurring difference throughout the Septuagint and the Masoretic, that instead of saying humiliation, or instead of saying humiliation, and the Masoretic it will say affliction. Either way, it's humbling yourself. That he was humbled, that he's afflicted. Verse 44, Jacob says to Laban, it's actually it's Laban speaking to Jacob, rather. Laban is saying, behold, there is no one with us. Behold, Elohim is witness between me and you. What does the Masoretic say? It doesn't say anything. Not that's not included. It's completely omitted from the text. That there's anyone with us, God is a witness, doesn't say that. So he sounds like an atheist. Just taking this verse out of context, it just sounds like it's just me and you. There's no God. Well, actually, he does say that. There's no one with us, but God is the only one with us. However, verse 46, Laban said to him, this heap of stones witnesses between me and you today. What does the Masoretic say? Again, nothing. It says nothing regarding that. Verse 47, Laban called it the heap of testimony. The rocks are a heap of testimony. Jacob called it the witness heap. The Masoretic simply uses the words Jagar Saha Dutha and Galid. Very well, it's just a translation most likely. And the vision in 49, in the vision of which he said, let Elohim look to it between me and you, because we are about to depart from each other. This is Laban speaking again. What does the Masoretic say? And Mizpah. For he said, Laban, Jehovah watches between me and you when we are absent from one another. So it sounds like Santa Claus, he sees us when we're sleeping. He sees us when we're absent from each other. No, that's not what it's saying. It says, Elohim, look between me and you because we are about to depart from each other. Not watch us every time. Not that he can't watch us, but that's not what he said. And it's also saying the vision of which he said. Mizpah could mean that. 3 more verses to look at. Verse 50 says, humble. If you shall humble my daughters versus if you shall afflict my daughters. Again, similar terms that are usually used for fasting. Verse 52 doesn't mean that he's going to fast his daughters, but it sounds like he's going to shame them, in my opinion. It sounds like he's going to shame them by taking it wives in addition to his daughters. So don't shame my daughters, essentially, is how I read it. Verse 52 says, if I should not cross over to you, okay, Laban speaking again, neither should you cross over to me for mischief. So don't come here to do mischief to me. Don't do it. Let's not do mischief to each other, essentially. Verse 52 in the Masoretic says, don't harm me. Do not harm. Let's not harm each other. Mischief, I know, can mean funny things in our day and age, but I think in this case, it is closer to harm. It's closer to injury, closer to doing wrong, essentially. Ill intention is probably another way to see it. Verse 54 says, ate and drank. So they ate and drank together, Jacob and Laban, to solidify, to confirm their covenant between each other. However, in the MT, Masoretic, it says they only ate bread, they didn't drink. So that's all I have to say about this chapter 31. Uh, Big difference, lots of differences. Probably the biggest one is don't speak evil versus don't speak good or evil, which I find just completely mind-blowing. And that's why this video is titled Speak No Evil to Jacob or Don't Speak at All, question mark. I thank you for your time. Jehovah bless you and make your way prosperous. Until next episode, we'll look at Genesis 32. Shalom. This is Jack Knight for Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible.